Hey, Norcal Karters. Welcome back to another Norcal Mondays, and it is May 16th, 2022. And tonight we are doing a chassis tuning special. Right now we have one special guest, Jake Mottaz. He's going to join us tonight. We're also waiting on Mark French, who is scheduled to join us, but you know how airlines go when you're traveling and they say, oh, well, we have a weather delay, but the weather is perfectly clear. Yeah, so he has a weather delay at the airport. So him and I are going back and forth on the phone to see whether or not he's going to be able to chime in. But regardless, it's not really going to matter. Tonight, the chat lines are open. We're focusing on the Birel chassis. So it's Birel chassis 101. If you have a question for Jake, definitely ask a question, ask away. We're on Facebook, we're on YouTube. And I guess without further ado, we're going to bring up Ashley. She's going to do her intro, and then we'll jump right into it with Jake. And Ashley, take it away.
What's up, Norcal? All right, over the weekend, we had KPX in Reading. Let's talk about some highlights, some shout outs. Austin Elliott raced Senior 206. What? Good to see him back in a kart. Of course, my favorite, Josh Velos. He was out there representing Norcal Karters as well. Stephen Isart, second place, repping Norcal again, but defending the home turf, Bowden Barnwell. What's up? All right, Norcal. So we also had our friend Gary, GFC, down in Buttonwillow this weekend at Pro Kart Challenge. So that was awesome to see them out. Let's talk about races this weekend. We got NNKC, Northern Nevada Kart Club. Our friends in Reno are having a club race. We have Blue Max is having a club race. CCKRA, Central California Kart Racing Association, will be down in Buttonwillow. And next weekend, we're going to have our double header, Sonoma and Prairie City 206 Club. So where are you going to be at? Put it in the comments. Tell us where you're going to be at. Norcal Karters will be in Sonoma. And without further ado, Jason, let's introduce our guest.
All right. And this is actually going to be a unique one because Jake is currently in Florida. There's Jake right there. And in a moment, we'll give Jake the big screen here. But Jake is actually, his karting roots are actually in Northern California. So Jake, the stage is yours. Give us your intro. Give us your 45-second elevator speech.
My name is Jake Mottaz. I'm originally from San Ramon, California. I am a California exile. Everybody's leaving now, but I left before it was cool. So I left about 2010. I've been here ever since. I do miss it. I definitely, especially Sonoma, I miss hanging out at the track there. But fate brought me over here, so now I'm here.
All right. So say your last name for us again.
It's pronounced Mota. The Z is silent.
The Z is silent. Okay.
All right.
So I'm pretty good at butchering names.
Can you tell us what experience do you have with Birel specifically?
I've got a lot of experience with Birel. It's pretty much, my first kart was the Track Magic. And then actually I drove an Alpha kart for, I think, a season, maybe a season and a half. And then basically from there, I was, I think, 12 years old when I ran the Alpha. And basically from age of 13, I'm 29 now. I've been basically working with the Birel every day. So I've seen, not since the beginning, definitely not early 2000s or 90s or anything like that. But I definitely saw every product that they made when they were still Birel, and then as they transitioned into the new company Birel Art when they merged with Art Grand Prix. So definitely in the recent past, I've touched and worked with pretty much every product that they've made.
So when you were actually racing yourself, what engine packages were you on, specifically with the Birel packages?
Once I started, I did a season of Junior Puma, and then pretty much after that, I was on Rotax pretty much exclusively. I think my last season of driving was 2011, and that was on Rotax as well. So yeah, pretty much all of it has been on Rotax.
And you basically have two business ventures out there in Florida. Tell us about those. So set the stage so people tuning in go, well, why are we listening to this guy?
Yeah, so basically, the reason I left California was the Anderson family. They bought a track here in Florida, and they became a Birel dealer. At the time, I was racing with MRP, who were the Birel team at the time, and they, kind of put my name in the mix to come out here and start racing and doing some work over here to, try and get the brand off the ground in Florida. So that's what I did. My senior year of high school, I started coming out to Florida, a weekend or two every month. I graduated high school 2010, and 3 or 4 days later, I moved to Florida, and I worked with the Andersons pretty much full time after that. And we ran a team and a shop and, a couple other things with them. And then once the pandemic hit in 2020, I bought it from them. So I bought the team and the parts dealership from them in 2020. We launched in June, and we split before the parts shop and the team were one company, we split them into two. So now the team is called MottazSport, and then the parts dealership, so the Kart shop, is called Karters. So those are the two companies that we have here. Karters has, we're trackside at the Anderson track. It's called Anderson Race Park in Palmetto, Florida. We've got about 1,000 square foot retail store there, and then we've got about an 8,000 square foot warehouse, workshop warehouse, also on site.
So you're staying pretty busy trackside.
Yeah, we do. We've got a coaching program. We call it the Academy program. We've got about 19 kids enrolled in that. They come 2 or 3 times a week. And so in addition to racing, that's another thing that we do.
Very cool. And then what are some of the product lines that you're distributing right now through Kart Rising?
I'd say that the main two are the Birel product line and the Tillotson product line. So we sell the Birel carts. We race the Birel carts exclusively. And we also sell the Tillotson engines. We import the Tillotson engines, and we also sell the chassis line that they make. But we basically run that exclusively in the 4-stroke for now.
For now, anything expanding in the future, or right now is that keeping you pretty darn busy?
Yeah, right now that's we work 60 plus hours a week every week all the time. So we stay busy. So no expansion plans in the mix at the moment.
All right. We have a few questions coming in already. So we have Josh. Let's see here. Do you have 6 foot? Really, Josh? 6 foot Freeline DF wheels?
We do. We do.
You have those in stock?
We do. Yeah.
All right, Josh, call me tomorrow and I get a referral fee.
Okay.
And then we have, go ahead.
Jason, there's not much margin these days. So
I know. That's why I do the used carts.
Yeah.
So actually, that's actually okay. He's asking about 6-inch Freeline DF wheels. Why? Why is he asking for a DF wheel?
I'm guessing because he races 206 mostly, and that's the wheel generally you have to use in 4-stroke racing. And the Birel wheel, I would say between it and the MXC wheel, they're the two most competitive wheels in 4-stroke racing. and they're a little bit cheaper. They're easier to find.
Okay.
Than the MXC.
Got it. So it's a tuning choice.
Yeah.
Does a cart come standard with those?
The 4-stroke cart does, yeah. The 2-stroke cart obviously comes with 210 wheels, comes with 7-inch wheels, but the 4-stroke cart, the AM29, that comes with 6-inch wheels.
Okay. And then let's see, we have Jeff Tompkins here on YouTube. You sell carts and parts for Fullerton?
We don't have any Fullerton specific branded stuff, but all the material is the same. So all the components on the Fullerton cart are the exact same as the Birel. They just have a different, different logo, different laser etching on them. So if you don't mind it saying a different name on it, then yeah, we can supply you with whatever you need.
Okay. So the Birel does a very similar thing as the OTK, where they'll rebrand it, but it's identical.
Yep. I think they've got four. I think they have four chassis brands that they sell in house, and they also produce carts for a couple other people. Fullerton being one of them.
Okay. And then, as far as you know, is Fullerton its own chassis design, just using the Freeline components?
From what I understand, the core design, what you would get off the showroom, is similar, but I think the Fullerton offers, I think they do have a few different versions that you can get. But I think if you were to buy a Fullerton and buy a Birel and pull them out of the box, I think they're exactly the same. Okay.
Perfect. Thanks for the question, Jeff. And Josh, thank you for your question. Let's see here. Well, let's get to our questions then.
Okay.
Do you have a question, Ashley, or do you want me to start?
Oh, no, I have the questions right here. So,
okay.
All right, Jake, in your opinion, does a new karter need a brand new cart?
I think if you focus on the keyword there being need, then I think the answer is no. I don't think that you necessarily want to start out on something that's destroyed, because I think once carts get past their usable lifespan, they kind of just do the same thing all the time. You can put whatever axle you want in them. You can do whatever you want to, and the go-kart kind of always does the same thing. So you don't want to have something that's completely worn out. But when you're first starting, if you are truly brand new, then whatever performance advantage there is in a brand new frame compared to a 2 or 3 or 4 race old frame, whatever advantage that is just going to be negligible, because there's so many other things that you are going to need to work on. So I think the answer to that is no.
Yeah.
How are you going to sell chassis when you tell people that?
Yeah, I don't know. We've got used stuff.
Well, and I mean, in theory, like, a new karter is not really going to know how a chassis is supposed to handle.
Right.
So if you give him a brand new cart, he's just going to be like, "Oh yeah, this is great. It's great, perfect."
Yeah, I mean, that said, I don't have any. I don't begrudge anybody if they want to start on new equipment.
Yeah. Oh no, of course.
But yeah, it's definitely not necessary. I think, maybe not your initial learning, but I'm thinking we're probably going to get into that a little bit later. But I think the longer you spend, driving on, carts that aren't as good or carts that are more difficult to tune, I think you end up coming out the other side better than if you're just all the time.
So we had a question come up while you were answering. How long should a chassis last? I'm assuming Birel specifically, right, Joey?
I think it depends how you define that last word. How long should it last? If lasting to you is it still rolls and you can still drive around the track, then they last quite a long time. If you run frame protectors in the front and stop the go-kart from developing holes or cracks, then they'll last a long time. Especially Birel, they'll last years and years.
I think that's a great question, because I think you nailed it on the head. And what do you mean by last? And then the track has a lot to do with it too. If you're going to clobber every single curb that's possible to clobber, your chassis is not going to last as long as if you're going around the curb, or the curbs are smoother, or you figure out how to get around it.
Yeah. Off topic a little bit. I heard they got rid of tic-tac-toe. Is that true?
Yes.
True. We can confirm.
We can confirm.
I'm not
seen it with our eyes.
We've seen it with our eyes. Let me see if I have.
Yeah,
I have a video somewhere. I just don't know if I have it saved in.
Okay. While Jason's looking for that, we had another question come in. We're gonna keep answering questions again. If you're just tuning in, we have Jake Mottaz from Florida. And then, sorry, I'm trying to get the next comment. And our friend Mark French is delayed on a plane or trying to get on a plane, something like that. So he is on standby currently. Here we go. How would you tune a Birel to emphasize the load and spring chassis effect? Softer or stiffer? I'm just starting to feel the chassis work and want to nourish that.
How would you tune to emphasize the load? Well, I'm not. I can't say I understand the question exactly.
Okay.
Michael.
Explain.
Yeah, you can explain. I would just say the second part of your question. If you're just starting to get to the point where you can feel, changes in what it's doing to the cart, then I would pick one of those, and let's say taking the front bar in and out or something like that, and just do that over and over again. Just go drive 5 laps with it in, come in, take it out, drive 5 laps with it out, and just do that over and over again until you're absolutely sure what that does. And then, especially in the beginning, instead of trying to make a hypothesis and go prove it or whatever, just go feel the difference and then try and reverse. If you're trying to understand why that worked or what that did, do that on when you get in off the track after you felt the change already.
And can I add to that, because I see this a question a lot, like in the different forums or discussion groups, where people want to be able to kind of roll off the trailer or the back of the truck with the ideal setup for that track and that day. I think it's really important you find local support. You find a reputable shop. They're going to give you a baseline. They're going to tell you, hey, start with 2 spacers out in the front. Start it, depending on the class that you're running, maybe 51 inches in the rear or 49, whatever the class, 55 if you're a shifter. They're going to give you that baseline. Go out. And then Michael's saying he's starting to feel the chassis. Go out 1 spacer on the front. Go in 1 spacer on the front. And what do you feel? How are your lap times? And not all the time is it necessarily just the lap time, but how did the cart feel? And do you need to change something in your driving to adapt to it?
Yeah, I think, just another part of his question, he said, softer or stiffer. I think a trap that people fall into when they're first getting started is they want to tune their carts. They want to operate on rules. They want to go, well, if I go stiffer, it's more grip. And if I go softer, it's more grip. And they want to, try and learn or, feel their way around the track with these, arbitrary rules that don't exist. And I always try and explain it like this, if you went out on flat tires and came in and added 2 pounds of pressure and then went back out on the track, you're going to feel like, you gained grip. The go-kart works better. You gained grip because you went from 0 PSI to 2 PSI. Go-kart, worked better. If you stop there, you would give yourself a rule and say, oh, if, when I add air pressure, I get more grip. But that's not true in perpetuity. There's every tuning change, everything you do works, on a bell curve. So there's a point where you're going to get too much air pressure, and then you're going to have to rethink your rule. You thought you put more air pressure in and that's going to give you more grip. And, it's not always true. So I think don't box yourself in with, those kind of rules. If I go softer, I get more grip, or, you hear people talk about it all the time, but just, arbitrary rules like that, are true up to a point or false up to a point. I think you can really get lost if you get yourself stuck in those.
Now, does Birel, either through your shop or through your distributor, do you guys have like an online chassis guide or an online reference so people can at least get those baselines for each specific chassis?
I know on the Birel website, there's some stuff on there. There's like a, baseline recommended setup and where to put the seat in and what happens if you do this. And I know there's like a little flow chart of, lowering ride height does this. If it rains, do that. Outside of that, I'm not really sure. I don't think I've seen other chassis brands make a chassis tuning manual where it's like a, 20-page PDF that goes over, what all of the changes do. I don't think Birel has anything like that, but I'm not on the internet looking for it, so I could be wrong.
Okay. And then just to rewind a little bit, you wanted to know about tic-tac-toe.
Yeah. I don't know how contentious of an issue that is, but I heard that. I haven't been back. And,
it depends on who you ask, but it's pretty much 100% not liked.
Yeah.
And our junior drivers pretty much just say they hate it, they don't like it, they have no filter. And then our our adult drivers try to come out a little bit more political. Let's see here. Let me get it queued up at the beginning.
So that's it now.
So that's the new tic-tac-toe.
Oh, so the second part of it just goes a little bit wider.
Yeah, they elongated it right here. Whereas it used to be, you're used to it being right here.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And some of the feedback too, it was like the identity of the track. Where like Laguna Seca, if you get rid of tic-tac or the corkscrew, it's not Laguna Seca, right? So a lot of people, that was really their underlying comment was, we don't like it, but it changed the identity of the track.
Sure.
I'm not so, I don't know,
attached.
I'm not that attached. I just love karting, right? So to me, it's definitely it looks a lot more technical. And I think a lot of guys that also threw them for a curve because they're used to flying through there. You hit it right, you go quite a bit faster. Now, it's methodical. I personally like it from watching the racing standpoint. I like it.
Yeah, I don't know. It's just one of those kind of iconic features.
Absolutely.
Every track's got a hairpin. Every track, has a sweeper or whatever. Some tracks have elevation changes, but nobody, really had that feature like that.
Yeah.
I don't know.
And you spent a lot of time up there. So, you've spent a lot of time through tic-tac-toe and, it's always fun watching the new guys try to figure it out and watch them either, get a little sideways or break rotors.
Did they do it because they thought people were beating up their equipment, or do you know the reasoning why they changed it?
Yeah, from the track's standpoint, they were getting a lot of feedback from more of a club level guy that one, it's physical if you hit it wrong. Steve Cameron actually made the comment, he popped his ribs, and he didn't really admit it at the beginning, but he said it on one of our episodes a couple months ago. He actually popped his ribs in tic-tac-toe. Again, a lot of the club guys, like they were just going through chassis, quite frequently. And chassis were breaking too. Like the C hangers on the front were breaking. So it's like not normal stuff. So they wanted to address it, make it still a very functional, unique part of the track, while addressing the concerns of longevity for the chassis life.
Yeah. I don't know. I was a kid, but I don't really remember anybody complaining about it. I don't know.
No.
I don't know.
Yeah, and there's so many iconic pictures of karts just flying over there, two wheels in the air and just right. And you just knew if someone gave you that big of a frame of that picture, oh, that's Sonoma.
That's right.
That's tic-tac-toe.
Yeah.
Yeah. Let's see what else we got for questions over here. Enough about tic-tac-toe.
All right. So Michael Walden said, "Thank you. I'll stick to feel rather than make rules and box my setups in. Thank you." Michael, we're gonna save your question, and then if we do get French on Mark French, we're gonna ask him that question as well, because he'd be a good response. So back to the other questions.
Real quickly on Michael's comment.
Go ahead.
Go by feel. Do not just discard notes and setup, because there's a lot of times you go by feel and then you don't write it down. So always track your notes, what you did, and try to be as methodical as you can. Because if you're constantly going by feel, you're constantly going to be doing, kind of Hail Marys when you go to new tracks or different setups. So write your notes down, because you may go to a track. Jake, do you ever drive Marina?
I didn't. No,
you didn't drive Marina.
Is it like a cone?
It was a parking lot track. Yeah.
No, I never did drive that one.
It was temporary. It was a permanent temporary track. So it was always the same layout, but in a parking lot that they had to tear down at the end of the races. And that track was always very, very unique from a chassis handling standpoint. And I always had my little notebook. It's like, okay, this is what I did on tire pressures.
Yep.
This is what I did. And if you tried that at other places, like it just didn't work.
Right.
So Michael, don't always just go by feel and Hail Mary it, but keep notes. And then why you made that change.
Yeah, that I completely agree. That's not to say there's you still at the end of the day, you need to try and figure out why what you did worked or why the result, or what the factors were that created the result. But I think if you walk around the paddock and someone says, "Oh, put a stiffer axle and that's it's going to give you more grip," or put a softer axle and it's going to give you more grip, and you just go, "Okay, well, softer axle gives me more grip," and then that's what you do for the rest of your life. You're gonna suffer.
Yeah.
All right. So we have a question. What is the first thing you do at a new track to reduce your learning curve? So when you're trying to learn a new track.
I think that there's the obvious ones. Go walk the track and look at it. Try and identify if there's obvious things, surface changes, or how the surface is. If there's usable curbs, the stuff that everyone does, or watch GoPro video or YouTube video before you show up at the track. I think probably those are common sense. Everybody's going to do those, but one technique, I guess, that we do teach our kids when they're going to a track is just to zoom out and look at the track from bird's eye view, like from 10,000 feet, and try and see if there's any corners on the track that are the same corner or very similar to another track you've driven, because it's only so many ways to lay out a go-kart track. And, if you go to enough tracks, you're going to end up, seeing, some repetitive designs or,
similarities.
If it's a flat sweeper with no camber or no elevation change, barring any specifics, you're probably going to drive that, the same way in Japan or the same way in, Fresno or whatever. Doesn't matter where you go. It's, as long as all the parameters are the same, go-kart's the same, it's all going to be the same. So kind of just chop the track up and go, okay, that's a chicane. It's like this. I've seen that on TV, or I've driven a track like that. Turn 1 is like turn 6 at Dixon, or turn, whatever. Try and chop the track up into some more easy to digest, segments, so that when you do go out the first time, you're not just, completely rolling blind.
All right. That's actually good advice.
That's why we have them on.
Right? I'm like, take notes. All right.
So I'm going to get a concrete saw and go out to the next track I drive and start cutting it up.
There you go.
Cutting segments out.
Oh my goodness. All right. What was your biggest learning experience gained at a national level event?
At a national level,
But let's ask you that twice. Let's ask you as a driver and ask you as a team operator.
The biggest one. I mean, every time you lose, you learn a lot. I think you learn a lot more when you lose than when you win. The biggest, as a driver, like I never went to a super high level. I never raced in Europe. I only raced the national races in the U.S. I can say for sure that when I was a kid, when I was younger, I put so much pressure and so much emphasis on a result that when I was driving or approaching the weekend, I was very, very emotional and not very methodical, and I wasn't having a lot of fun because I just wanted to go win so badly or do better. And when I think I took a year away and came back, and not that I stopped caring, but I definitely didn't I wasn't driving as if I was racing for a contract with McLaren or something. And I did way better. I just immediately did way better. I learned way quicker, and I had more fun. And so I would say that that was probably, I would say, as a driver, that was the biggest big lesson that I learned, other than small stuff, what to do at starts and what to do this and what to do that, other than the specifics, I would say that's the sort of number one big picture thing that I had to conquer, that I had to learn for myself as a driver. And then, from the other side of, being on the other side of the fence, it's really hard to narrow it down and say what the biggest lesson was. I don't know. Our workshops at the track, I can I open the door to the workshop and I can throw a rock at the track. So I'm learning every single day. I don't know. There's a lot of stuff I thought I knew that after getting beat enough times, you realize you don't know, and you have to reassess your philosophy, and kind of find a new understanding for whatever it was. I'm struggling to find a specific example, but I would say you need to take with you what you know and what you've learned, but you still should approach every race with fresh eyes and without assumptions, and just watch what's going on the track, and take it from there. I've been to multiple races at the same track, at the same layout, same tires, same engines, all the parameters basically the same, and I've won on a 74, and then the next year you win on a 76 with nothing changed, same fuel, same everything. Just the situation changes, and if you go, well, this track you run a 74, and that's what you run, I think you miss out. So maybe that's a lesson that I had to learn the hard way.
So just to clarify to our listeners, that might be newer. You're talking about gearing.
Yeah.
Because we are, part of Norcal Karters as well. We really try to target, obviously, existing racers. That's what started the passion for it, but also the new guy. It's and trying to get that new guy into the sport, and so yeah, that's the only reason I wanted to clear that up.
Good. Yeah, and I think right now I don't know everything that's happening in NorCal right now, but I know that it seems like the majority of the racing is 206 racing. Is that true?
Yeah, I would say it's probably
it's
going to be 4-stroke for your typical entry level, and not saying entry level as in beginner. It has the most support at any track you go to, with the exception of Sonoma. And it's a good class that most people can jump into and not be overwhelmed with trying to grab gears and trying to worry about warming up engines and jetting and all this other stuff. And then Sonoma, like you remember back in the Rotax days, it used to be a Rotax program. Now it's a Vortex program.
Right.
So if you're going to Sonoma, you're going Vortex rock racing, and you're starting out with 100cc air-cooled 2-stroke.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. But yeah, no, the 4-stroke stuff it's been good for NorCal. I mean, all of our NorCal tracks. I mean,
are they all still there?
All of them, but Ashley, except for Atwater is not around any longer.
Okay.
In Monterey Bay, it's there, but is not in operation. That's correct, right, Ashley?
Yeah.
But then, yeah, the rest are around.
Is the Stockton track still there?
It is. Yeah.
I always liked that track.
Yeah, Stockton is still there.
Yeah.
All right. What is your favorite feature on the Birel chassis line?
Physical feature. The Birel has a lot of cool features. It has a lot of things that some other cars don't. It has a 2-piece steering column. So I don't know if the 4-stroke Kart comes with that or not. I think it does, but basically it's got a normal steel steering column with basically an aluminum sleeve that slides over, that has interchangeable plates that have different sensitivity and different Ackerman settings on it. So you can instead of having to change the whole steering column, you can quickly just slap these plates on and adjust your steering speed. They've got 2-piece spindles. So basically the stub axle, the shaft that your front hub sits on. Again, I don't think the 4-stroke go-kart has that, but but all the other ones do. So basically, you can put in a stiffer or a softer or whatever combination you want with the stub axle. So those are, I think, two key features that the Birel has that other go-karts don't. And then I think in terms of like a chassis characteristic, what I like about the Birel is it is very tunable. It responds to change. It's not like you unload the go-kart and what you have is what it's going to do all the time. You can change it. It does respond to all sorts of changes. It's very responsive to change. So it is a very adaptable go-kart. And I'm talking mostly about the two-stroke kart, the RY30, which is the main model, I'd say, in the US that two-stroke drivers run. So,
would you get mad if I called it the Emic of Italy?
No, I think that's a compliment, personally.
Because I remember the few times I drove the Birels back when, or depending on what part of the country you're from, Birel. I just jumping into it just seems so forgiving, and it's like, and then jumping into the MX back in the KT100 days, it's like you jump into it, it's like it was just forgiving, and it was always kind of right there. It's like, okay, you fine tune it, and it's like, I don't really know if I need to fine tune it. I definitely know my driving can improve to get it faster, and that was always one of the characteristics with the Birel that really stood out to me. And I always like some of their ingenuity too. Like when they came out with that mechanical hydraulic banana brake system.
Yeah.
It was like when it first came out, it's like, what is this?
Yeah, that was actually that's mainly the brake that I grew up learning how to drive on. And I never realized it because that's just what I drove all the time. But when I got into a kart with all hydraulic brakes, I just felt like they didn't work. You had to push so hard on it because that banana brake, the CX brake, you pretty much are just braking with your pinky toe. Like you're just braking with your toes.
Yeah.
You really have to push it, and it stops. Now the go-karts have hydraulic full hydraulic pads on it or brake systems on it. But yeah, they have had some tricky stuff.
Yeah, my only gripe is their gas tanks.
Join the club.
Why? When they re-engineered everything, it's like, no, you're getting a Freeline gas tank.
Yeah, they.
And you commented, join the club.
Yeah. It's definitely not. I'm not like super tall, but I've always been. I think I was over 6 foot tall. Like by the time I got into high school, and that gas tank's definitely not friendly to tall drivers. We ran Oliver Askew for a long time, and we always had to put padding all around the gas cap because he, would just end up with black and blue knees.
Oh, that's right, because they had that one model where the gas cap was at an angle and it was like this big.
It's still like that. They haven't changed the gas tank. They've adapted. They changed a couple things, but the main mold of the gas tank, the main shape, they haven't changed in like 20 years or something. So it's still like that.
The Birel gas tank.
Yep.
Cool. All right. What's the next question, Ashley?
For a local and new karter, does a chassis brand matter? We kind of talked about that one earlier.
We talked about a little bit, but yeah.
I think what you said earlier is just it's less important to be on whatever go-kart is the flavor of the month, and more important to find the right shop that fits you or the right team that fits you. Especially when you're first starting out, you have people around you telling you that, if you're a second off or a second and a half off, or you're, doing a lot of like easily identifiable things wrong, and you have people around you telling you that you need to change what go-kart you're on, and that's it's you. If you have people telling you that what you need to do is change what color go-kart you're on, then you're not around the right people. So yeah, I don't think chassis brand matters. It's about affiliating yourself with people who are going to take care of you, not try and rip you off, and then help you develop as a driver. Yeah.
And with that being said, don't, if you're new to karting and you're going to get into it, do your research. I always I tell a lot of new guys, if you want to go race, you're not buying a kart from Jason Berry. I'm the guy that's selling that, 1999 Emic with the YZ 125 on it for $2,500. And then you're going to show up to one of the local kart tracks to go race in the shifter class. And they're like, you're not racing that here. I'm sorry. It's outdated. Yeah, it was cheap, but it's outdated. So it's also important to, if you're going to go to a certain track, like Jake says, he's out at, is it still called Anderson?
Yeah, it's called Anderson Race Park.
Anderson Race Park. It's like, he's there. The Birel makes sense. It's like locally here. We have Donald Durbin out at Prairie City. He's the Birel guy in Norcal. It's like, if you're going to be camped out and you're not going to do get a lot of support from anybody else, you're a do-it-yourselfer, you might want to go with a Birel because Donald's going to have all the parts right there to the track.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep, I agree.
Next question. All right, time to get to the nitty-gritty since Ashley took too long.
Oh, go ahead.
Since you're from NorCal, what is your favorite food stop in NorCal going to or from the racetrack?
These are the bonus questions, huh?
These are the bonus questions. This is the bonus question.
This is the Jason Berry favorite question.
And you're from NorCal, so it's relevant. We'll let you can do NorCal and you can do Florida.
Yeah, I mean, when I was, I used to sleep in my truck at the track in Sonoma. So I used to always go to the deli that's there. I think it's called Angelo's.
There you go. Yeah.
That's pretty much it. I used to pretty much go there every single day. Yeah. Nowadays we don't usually do any fine dining when we're on the road because usually I'm with a group of 10 or so guys and trying to get them all to agree on going to one place is hard. So we usually end up at an Applebee's or a Chili's or some kind of place like that just has a little bit.
Yeah. All right. So we have a question that came in. If you had to change to two other two-stroke chassis to race, assuming good parts / track support, what would you pick and buy? Oh, and why?
Okay.
Oh, so he's asking if you were going to be a traitor to your brand, who would you choose?
That's kind of messed up, Dan.
Yeah.
Wow.
I mean, I would pick something that has a cool legacy or a cool story, to it. I wish there were more American karts. That's mainly that's mainly what I wish. But I'd try and switch to. I'd try and switch to an American kart. Otherwise, I think of all the Italian or Western European go karts, I really like the techno kart. I've always liked the techno kart. So
I'm gonna get you allow this to be the segue for you. What were you and I talking about the other day of a local brand that you thought was cool for the revival?
Yeah, I mean my first go kart was a Track Magic. My favorite go kart are the old Track Magics. I understand why everything is the way it is, but I really wish that some of those old brands that I grew up seeing and racing, I wish they were still made in the U.S. I wish maybe that's something that'll happen in the near future, but that would be a good step for me.
We still have Cole Nelson racing, so Cole's doing the Invader chassis still.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
And that's made here in the U.S.
Yep. They moved out to Reno a number of years ago, and so the Invader chassis is still alive and well in the NorCal region. American made.
Yeah, that's awesome to hear.
Yeah.
All right.
So I had to get that plug in there for the Track Magic guys. Hi, Ridgely.
Hi, Ridge.
He's saying GFC.
Yeah.
For what? For the chassis.
GFC for the chassis.
Track. Oh, here we go. There's the next one.
Yeah, I know. I know they're the same kart, but I'd like.
Jake wants American Iron.
Yeah.
I know a guy that has a 99 Track Magic. It's green. It's a green chassis with white bodywork.
I heard about this car.
Yeah. It may or may not be listed on Craigslist. Okay, next question. All joking aside, next question.
All right.
Technocart. I wasn't expecting that one.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think they really ever took off in the U.S. much. There's a bunch of there's a group of guys I think out of the Midwest that run them, but they always had a really cool spindle. So the spindle went over the chassis, over the C, and then the kingpin went through that, and there was an adjuster inside of that, and then that whole C section that welds onto the front axle could all move. So you did all your caster and camber by adjusting that thing. I'm sure I've seen some like oval carts and stuff like that have a similar design, but and then I think the Paralins now they've got where the steering column bolts into the front hoop. It's got a slider on there, so you can change the toe on the fly, like if it's raining or whatever. But from what I understand, the Technocart was the first one to have that. So they always had some cool, quirky designs that I liked.
So yeah, now you have me on a rabbit hole.
If you could prioritize one thing in a kart program, what would it be?
I think I don't know. I think balance of affordability and honesty. I think that's if you had to pick one attribute to highlight, everybody, I think I was telling Jason this, like, the new culture when you get started in karting is, everybody wants to be on the, what they perceive to be the best equipment right away, and they want to have, fast engines, and they think that there's, a lot of the dads have their own, business sense that they think works to help them get that. But, like I said, I think I learned a lot when I was a kid by just having my go-kart in my garage and just going out there by myself, pulling it apart and seeing if I could, put it back together, practicing doing the alignment by myself, putting the engine on and off myself. For me, that was the foundation that, I think got me really interested in karting, and, for sure helped me, I think, get ahead of, other people my age. And, I think this immediate trend of, get them on the right kart and get this engine builder. And then, there really is no, I don't know, I'm not, I'm young, I'm not an old school guy, but there really is no more old school approach where, you show up at the track and you figure out how to make your kart work, yourself. And I know racing teams, they're in the business to, put food on the table and try and make money, and they got to do what they got to do to, try and pay their bills at the end of the month. And I think increasingly, like, everything, not just this sport, but everything is getting more expensive. And I think increasingly, people are starting to make, short-sighted, or they allow themselves to get pushed into short-sighted strategies for driver development, or how you plan how you're going to do, your karting career. And at the end of the day, even if you go win the national championship, chances are, there's always an exception, but chances are you're not going to get a ride with Ferrari because you won the national championship. But if you do find a way to, move up to the next level, and you do find yourself, in the workshop of a Formula Car team, if you don't know the difference between a castor pill and, and a slice of pizza, they're not going to have any time for you. And, if you have money to take, they'll take it, and that's it. But if you walk in there and you know what you're doing, or you at least have an idea, or, a willingness to learn, then that for sure in the long run goes a lot further than, you bought the best engine and won some races.
Yeah. How do you feel about data?
Yeah, I think data's important. A lot of people, every Instagram story or feed has, photos of people sitting in front of the TV looking at data. And for sure, data is important. I think when you're, trying to compare two engines or trying to roughly see how you're driving against somebody. So I think the data helps you pick apart the last couple tenths to be on the limit. But all the people that we idolize or we talk about who were, badass karting drivers, Terry Fullerton, Ayrton Senna, all these old school guys that we like to idolize, they didn't have telemetry on their karts, and they seem to figure out how to get it done. So I definitely don't think it's the end all be all. I'm not somebody that hyper obsesses over it. But just like anything else, I see the utility in it, and we utilize it.
Yeah.
So there's one of the setup guides available through your manufacturer there.
Yeah.
It's probably hard to read.
Hard to see.
But I grabbed the OK one because I've been pegged as a shifter guy, so I just said, okay, I'll grab an OK chassis guide.
Yeah.
So going back to a tuning question for you, and I'm going to make it generic, and you can say no, you can't pigeonhole it that way. Mm-hmm. But when it comes to approaching a chassis setup, would you say you're a front end guy or a rear end guy? Meaning, does a front end control the kart or does a rear end control the kart?
That's a good question. I think I would be more inclined to say the front end. But you can put the top of the seat on the rear axle, and then it doesn't matter what you do in the front, nothing's gonna change. So I think there's more variability in the front end there. We spend more time adjusting the front end for sure.
And I know I left that pretty wide open for you and didn't give you any basis as far as assuming the chassis is correct, et cetera. It's like, no, this is a chassis tuning show. So assuming your guy put the seat in the right spot, assuming you have a close enough axle on the kart, you're diving to the front end.
There's definitely more flavors to unlock in the front end.
Okay. And then, so for those that are wondering, when I say front end, I'm talking about camber, caster, Ackerman. I'm talking about the whole front end of the kart, basically all the steering. And I know there's some guys that, right or wrong, like on the rear end, it's like you run this axle, you run this width, boom, you leave it. Go to the front.
Yep.
And I've seen guys have great success with that approach as well. That's why I was kind of curious. Like, okay, how do you approach it?
No, I mean, there definitely is. And I think from my experience, this is with every kart. There is a neutral, there's a baseline setup that gets you 90% of the way there in a lot of different conditions. Not every condition, but a lot of different conditions. And, for the most part, every chassis manufacturer has discovered that and made that widely available. So whatever you showed on that table, at chassis setup table, I'm assuming that's going to get you 90% of the way there,
Yeah, it was their basic setup guide for the OK chassis.
Yeah. So
and then if you go online, I mean, you can look up seat placing, and each brand will tell you, oh, the seat needs to be here if you're this tall and this heavy, and doesn't mean it's 100% accurate, but it should get you in the ballpark.
That's right.
And then the other thing I wanted to kind of just go back to, that you made some comments about the if you're listening and your dream is F1, I hope you have a lot of aspiration and a lot of determination. We don't want to kill your dream here by saying, oh, you need money, but you need money. and one of the things I've found talking to a lot of different people that have moved up the ladder is what they all had in common was hard work and dedication. And they had an eye on a prize, and nothing got in their way of that vision. So keep that in mind as well.
But that said, a lot of these guys, we on one hand we say, well, you need a bunch of money if you want to go race cars. You need a bunch of money if you want to go to Formula One. There's exceptions to that rule, But almost all of those guys who are the exception to that rule all put in, the groundwork in karting, and they could all do the job by themselves in karting before they went on the cars. They weren't just showing up to the track, putting their helmet on, jumping in the cart, and then going home afterwards.
When you were in NorCal, what was the time frame? What years?
I think my first season was 2006.
Okay.
In Puma.
Okay.
And then I think 7, 8, 9, 10, I was racing Rotax in and around there.
So, and the reason I was asking, because when I went through the karting ranks, we had AJ Allmendinger, Scott Speed, Joey Hand. Those are the three, and Mamo Gidley. Those were the four kind of big names out of NorCal that people looked to that just had grit and determination. None of them came from a lot of money, but all four of them busted their ass, not just at the track and in the shop, but on the phones, making the contacts, calling people. And you can almost say they probably put more work into that than they did their actual their driving craft, because they had to. And all four of them have had successful motorsports careers. And there's I mean, you probably know a lot more than I do as well, being that you're in Florida, came from California. Isn't that also a car track?
Yeah, there's a second half of the track that at one point you could run cars on. So when I'd say more so when I first came to Florida, 2010, 11, 12, 13, that's when they were running cars here. And now they do like exotic car tests and stuff like that here, but there's not really any. They used to do a lot of Formula car testing here, and then one of the tenants in one of the buildings ended up being one of the like more competitive teams in the Road to Indy, and then the other teams in the area stopped showing up to test because they didn't want to bring their stuff.
Okay.
Near that team's workshop, and then it kind of tapered off since then. There was a good bit of Formula car, no racing, just shakedowns and driver testing and stuff. Yeah,
so you've seen it in your career too. It's like, all right, there's a common trend of the ones that move on.
Yeah, I think there's two common trends. One is people who have strong enough financials to break the barriers that would be presented in front of some other people, and then the other trend are the for sure Scott, Alex, and Gary, and then the newer generation like Kyle Kirkwood, Oliver Askew. I can say for sure those guys didn't come from $1 million, and they were all the real deal in karting, and that's for sure what's pushing them forward, than more so than people just throwing money at them.
So, Mr. Tillotson Importer, do you see an adaptation of the Ghost engine in racing? We haven't seen one yet at our local tracks yet.
What is the Ghost engine? I'm not.
So the Ghost engine, I believe Dan is referring to. I'm sorry, Gear Nuts is referring to the Harbor Freight out of the box race engine.
Predator motor.
Predator, yeah.
Predator.
But out of the box, it's. I've only seen videos of it. I haven't really studied it too much. I never really did get behind the whole clone thing. It just left a bad taste in my mouth when it first came out. But it's the Harbor Freight version of, I don't want to say 206 or Tillotson, but that's what it is.
Yeah, I know. I've learned a lot about, in the past year and a half, I've learned a lot about the 4-stroke side. Not necessarily, for sure, not the oval side of the business, but for sure the manufacturing of the 4-stroke motors. They all come from very similar assembly lines, and there isn't a whole lot of difference between those motors when you look at them, when you look at the specs, and when you look at for sure some of the parts that are on the motors, but it's in the fine details, the finishing details, the small details that end up making the difference. Because if you take an engine out of the box, the 4-stroke motor, you expect it to go at least 50 hours before you have any sort of problems with it. And when they're blowing up at 10 hours, or when the only way to make it go around the track is to make it perform beyond its original design specifications, that would be the clone class, I'm assuming. But it's kind of just what's the point?
Yeah, and I haven't done much research on it. If they're trying to get their own series, or if it's just more of a where Harbor Freight is shipping a bunch of their engines, a bunch of the Predators to these engine shops, and they just said, "Oh, well, instead of sending this guy that has a YouTube channel, we can do this." So
Yeah,
I don't know.
I don't, obviously I don't know Harbor Freight. I think that there's a really big market in the mini bike, trail bike, whatever those things are called, Little Indian, those kind of things. I think it's a huge market of people who are building those kind of things, and that seems to me to be what the Predator motor is geared towards. I haven't really seen. Maybe it's happening in oval racing. I'm not sure, but at least at sprint tracks, I haven't really seen a big push from the company, from Harbor Freight or from any of their affiliates to, get the engine approved by WKA or by a sanctioning body or something like that. So I personally, we had actually a couple weeks ago, we had a guy bring a motorized cooler. It was a cooler that he welded a frame on, and it had a Predator motor on it. That was one of the first ones that I looked at. But other than that, I don't really have much experience. I have a lot of experience with the Tillotson engine, obviously, but not the Predator.
Yeah, I've only really had the question on the Predator thing. I've really only had questions from guys that don't race, but they have they have current-ish racing carts, but they didn't want to spend $1,000 on the Briggs. Or what's the price point on the Tillotson?
It's the same as the Briggs.
Same as the Briggs. Okay, so it's like you go down, you go to Harbor Freight, you get the Predator. I think it's a 212. I think.
Yep.
There's like 149 here in California plus your tax. And then online, there's a couple of online guys that sell a bolt-on kit for $50 with a different spring and a jet. And
I'm not exactly sure. I'm definitely not an expert, but I think the $150 engine, you have to pull apart and you have to take there's governor gears and stuff like that on the inside. There's an oil.
It is.
Sensor.
Yep.
You take that stuff out and then you can go racing. I think the Predator racing version is $300 or $400, I think, and that I think comes without some of that stuff.
Yeah.
Out of the box. But yeah, I don't know. For the most part, that's what I've seen. I've seen people putting those motors on scooters and mini bikes, and
more of the wreck guy that they want to go to a kart track, but they're not going to show up and race next weekend. Yeah.
All right, Jake. Well, we want to respect your time. Thank you so much for coming on, talking to us about the Birel. If you want to give us your final thoughts, any shout outs, we can do
so
that.
Early? It's only 11:30.
My shout out to my wife for letting me come back to the workshop and doing this.
Did you go back to the shop?
Yeah, because I have two dogs. I've got a bigger dog, and then we have a little kind of runt, and all he does is bark everything. So I knew if I tried to do it at home that it would just be the barking dog show.
I'm going to say I appreciate that forethought. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. All right. Well, it was great to have you on. Go ahead. Any shout outs, your team?
Shout out to Michael Walden Racing. Thanks for coming. Thank you guys for having me. I appreciate it. It was fun. This is my first podcast.
Thanks. Well, hopefully we'll figure out how to get Mark French on maybe another night. But thank you, Jake.
He owes us.
We'll let you get home.
All right, guys. Good night.
Have a good night.
All right, Jake.
Bye.
Thank you very much.
Jason, goodbye.
All right, Jason, not Jake. Jason.
Are you wrapping us up tonight?
You can go first.
I can go first. All right.
Yeah.
All right. So that was Jake. I'm gonna say Mottaz because there's a Z in there, but it's silent. So it's Mota. And Jake is out of Florida, but his roots in karting were in Northern California. And when I called Dominic over at PSL, I'm looking for a Birel guy that may have a focus on some cadet stuff. And he's all Jake. And then Xander from Kart Chaser said Jake. So, and once again, actually, that might sound a little confusing because we were supposed to have Mark French on as well, but he's traveling. His flight got delayed. I told him he should stop flying Spirit because I don't know what airline he's on, but I just had to pick on Spirit. So there goes that sponsorship opportunity down the road.
And he races with his son, Jake.
He races with his son, Jake. That's right. So we'll follow up with Mark at some point down the road. But thank you, everyone, for tuning in. And Ashley's going to wrap up our show. And just remember, if we all get one person into the sport, we'll double by next year.
All right, NorCal. So coming up, we're going to have an all-girls drivers show. We're going to have kart dads. We're going to get, hopefully, our friend Kai Sorensen back and his guests. We're going to continue our chassis series next month with another chassis episode. All right, so if you want to come on our show to talk about karting, let's do it. Peace, NorCal. We'll see you in Sonoma next weekend.